up, it's Cinema Shogun here, and we are about to tune in to part 3 of the Rudy Farias interview. But before we do so, quickly, I want you all to hop down to the comment section and let me know how you feel about part 1 and part 2. And then, after you watch part 3, drop another comment and let me know how you feel about part 3 and if your mind has changed at all. Because for me, every part that I watch, it gives me a different feeling. I walked away from part 1 feeling one way, and then I walked away from part 2 feeling another way, and we're about to see how I feel about part 3. Quickly though, I just want to talk about a few things. For one, pretty early on I called out that I thought this may be some type of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Some situation like that where his mother made him believe that he was suffering from certain health conditions that he necessarily wasn't suffering from. There was a little bit of touching on stuff like that in part of this interview because, it was said at one point that Rudy had cancer. That's what Rudy's mom was saying. And, we've seen these hospital photos multiple times. And, one story was that Rudy had cancer. One story was that Rudy had spinal fluids leaking into his body and all this other wild stuff. And then Rudy says that there was just something on his foot that they had to cut off, basically. Nothing that was ever a big deal. So all of these health issues that we've heard about, they're all lies. The spinal fluid stuff, that's a lie. Cancer, that's a lie. There is some other stuff as well. I can't even remember. There's so much stuff in this case. But all of the medical, situations that we've heard about Rudy, they're all fake. I'm still questioning, though, did Rudy know it was fake, or did Rudy at one point ever believe he had cancer? He said at one point that his mom wanted him to fake that he OD'd. It gets really wild. And then another thing I wanted to touch on was the loss of Rudy's brother. Because I feel like the loss of Rudy's brother is kind of being used as the main excuse here. And I only say excuse for a lack of better words, but it's like, oh, mom started acting this way after we lost my brother. And, oh, I just didn't know how to continue in life after I lost my brother. And I don't think that should be used as an excuse. It's a traumatic situation when you lose a loved one, but the mom can't use, the loss of her other son as an excuse for what she did to Rudy this entire time. And I don't think Rudy should view that as a valid excuse, for what happened to him. And at the same time, it may sound kind of harsh. I don't think it's healthy for Rudy to use the loss of his sibling as an excuse for kind of giving up on life in a way. I've experienced a lot of loss in my life. My father was never in my life. I lost my mother at 15. I understand the feeling of kind of feeling like you don't know who to turn to, like there's no one really there. And I understand how life-altering it could be. But at the same time, you have to kind of keep moving forward. You know what I mean? And, I know that when I lost my mother, which I was around the same age as Rudy when he lost his brother, I know what helped me get through it was the fact that I was so young and I was still at that point in life where you're really social. You're going to school, you got the big group of friends and stuff. So there was always things that would keep my mind off of what I was going through. And there was always people to talk to and hang out with. I could definitely say that I started hanging out with friends a lot more after that happened, just to take my mind off of things. And I don't think Rudy had that outlet, so when you don't have that outlet to occupy your mind and you don't have people to hang out with and people to talk to, you kind of just, you have to just sit and stew in your emotions and reflect inwardly, and that could kind of tear you apart. So it seems like Rudy didn't really have anywhere to go or anywhere to turn. and he's just stuck in the house with that crazy lady who's making him feel worse and worse about the loss of his brother. And I think the real reason why the loss of Rudy's brother was so devastating for him, and don't get me wrong, it's always going to be a very devastating situation, but I think it was even more intense for Rudy because I feel like Rudy's brother was probably that one thing that stood in between Rudy's mom and Rudy, you know? I feel like he probably looked at his brother as some form of protection, you know, his one getaway from the crazy lady in the house that obviously likes ruining people's lives. But with that being said, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. We're going to tune into part 3 of this interview. Get ready. It may change how you view the case. I don't know. We're going to see, because where we left off in part 2, they were just about to ask about Quanell. And that's a lot of the conversation right now is if, hey, was Quanell really telling the truth or not? And, you know, I don't know. It's looking like Quanell maybe kind of over-exaggerated some things, but I think it's too soon to talk. Let's go ahead, let's watch part 3, and then I'll be back with more thoughts.
Without getting into specifics, I'm sure you've heard or seen what Quanell told the media last week.
About what in particular?
About things that he says that you told him in that hotel room last week.
Specifically...
About some of the sexual things.
See, that's what I'm saying, the twisting. No, I didn't say anything like intercourse or this and that.
But
like,
no, I don't necessarily think he didn't get into specifics like that either, but he did mention that your mom wanted you to play the role of husband in the house.
Yeah, pretty much. It basically felt like that. Like, you know, make sure to cook, or, oh, you didn't make me any food, you didn't do this and that. It's just like, I just want to provide for myself. I don't want to keep providing for my mom. I just treat it like a roommate towards the end, you know? Like, I'm tired of being your son. I just want to be your roommate. I just want to live my life. Give me my check instead of $60 for 12-hour shifts 7 days a week at night, you know? Like, I just want to live.
She would make you go to work with her, is that?
Yes, ma'am.
And then we don't want to twist your words. We want to say it from your perspective, and we want to make sure we get this right. So I know she had you play the role of a father, but as far as sexual assault or something of that nature, did she ever force? You don't have to go into detail, but
she didn't force herself on me or anything like that. Like, it wouldn't be anything like I would have to go get a rape kit or go file a police report. Okay. It would never be anything like that. Just stuff that really made me uncomfortable, and I didn't have any references or other people to bounce off of to understand that, like, if it's a healthy thing that she does or not. You know, maybe it's just me not understanding how people work, because she's the only person I understand. But
would you say that you and your mom have a normal son-mother relationship?
I mean, not after all of that. Not after everything she did. And to be honest, I don't want one with her.
When you finally left a few weeks ago, when you were found at the church, what happened? Did you just finally have enough?
Yeah, I just been walking. I just wanted to get away. I didn't care if I had a car or money or anything. I don't care about money. I don't care about a car. I don't care about anything, just happiness and love.
How did you end up at the church? Did you just have nowhere to go?
I just kept walking around. I just kept trying to find back home, you know, something that felt familiar. And the only thing that felt familiar was this side of town, you know. I grew up over there by Austin and Humble and Jackson and all that, you know. Not Humble, Jackson and Austin and, you know, just that general area by the freeway, you know. So I kind of got a general sense of where I was going, but I just couldn't find something to be happy at. I found a church and I rolled with being at a church, you know.
Are you still talking
Churches
with your mom?
Safe. No, I don't want any contact with her, but she keeps trying to come around.
If she sees this story, what would you tell her?
Just leave me alone. Just let me live my life. Just want to be happy, and I'm happy now. And I'm working on it.
Rudy,
working on being happy.
What would you say to people that think that somehow, you know, now that you're an adult, that you were in on this? What would you say to those people that don't understand Stockholm?
It's very much a real thing, and it's a struggle when you're the only one that understands it. it's even worse when everybody wants to assume the worst rather than understand and communicate genuinely and honestly, because there's just too much confusion in this world.
How are you feeling now? Is there relief? How?
Yeah, very much. A lot of relief. It just feels like I'm just at peace now. It just feels happy, you know?
And how have police been handling this, do you think? What have they been saying to you, and what's it been like?
I mean, they're trying the best that they can and giving me space that they can, but it's just, it's a struggle still, you know. I'm just slowly trying to take it one day at a time, you know. It's just a lot it overwhelms me very much.
Given everything that you've been through and with your mom, I mean, do you think there's something that police should know about?
Just that there's a lot of corruption, and it's literally through the colors. Like I said, I'm not saying, oh, there's corrupt cops and this and that. Literally, it's a corruption of the mind. It's through nanobots and it's through the flu vaccines and everything. That's why people have that first memory of waking up and being alive whenever they're a kid, you know. It's like I said, literally corruption, like the colors. I'm not talking about the skin tones. I literally mean actual colors. Whenever you look at them, they influence the direction you go. And online, the media, like the computers and the people we talk to, it's all connected in a sense. That's why it just confuses us. Whenever we look at white things, we get distracted and stuff. And we look at the reds and we remind us that it's love, but they kind of influence us to assume, you know, like through bad stuff online, they're like, oh, red's bad, you know, it's evil, it's a devil. It's like, it's not all that.
For 8 years, you haven't really been able to speak to anyone besides some neighbors, your mom, going to work sometimes. Your communication seems like it's been very little. Do you think that's impacted you throughout the years, as
Yes.
not being able to really have real relationships with people?
Exactly. I wasn't able to understand like how people thought or acted, you know, like I would try to introduce myself, say hello to people online or this and that, and every time it just seemed like, you know, just completely get shot down by people, and I'm just trying to make friends or socialize, and it's just like I don't understand how to talk to people sometimes, you know. It feels like I'm speaking a completely different language than them, and I just don't understand sometimes.
Would you call yourself a victim?
Yes, heavily.
I'm almost done, personally. I don't know about you guys,
Yeah.
but for the longest time, you've stayed hidden. You haven't been able to say who you are. Is it nice? I mean, you can say who you are now. You can be your own self and do your own life.
Yes, sir.
What are you hoping?
Just a job, get my own money, and help out my communities, help out my people, and help out other kids like me. Because I don't want this to happen to other people, because I'm sure it happens to a lot of people. A lot of abuse and just neglect and just harmful ways of parenting that shouldn't be out there, you know? There's just so many negative ways that kids are just getting abused, and they don't understand or realize that there's no help for them.
Another question we have for you is, so it's totally up to you or not. At first we weren't going to because of the sexual assault aspect, but we want to put the record straight that you said that part's not true.
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
want to show your face, or you don't want to show your face?
I'm not a big fan of showing my face, especially with a lot of people
Yeah.
already knowing what I look like.
Oh,
It
yeah.
just makes it
Yeah.
even worse.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't
And-
worry, Rudy, we got you.
Anything we didn't ask that you think is important that you want us to mention, because we were here to finally tell your story. Anything that we didn't ask that you want to make sure people know about?
Just all I can say is just spread positivity and love.
The people that you're with, you know, a lot of people are coming down hard on Nikki and the people
They
you're
don't
with.
deserve it. They
Okay.
don't. They really don't. They helped me so much, and they've given me a place to stay and the family, in a sense. You know, it makes me happy.
Yep.
It really does. I never had, you know, a lot of people to talk with or socialize with, and it just makes me happy knowing that I have people here that I can trust and that can take care of me and that understand that, you know, sometimes people struggle.
So you consider yourself safe, out of harm, all that, right? Like you're with.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm happy here. I'm very happy here, and they're very good people. They don't deserve any negativity towards them or hatred. They should have a lot of help and support and guidance and just prayers and positivity, just everything that anybody would need to be happy in life, you know. Just,
And your mom, when she comes by, do you feel like, you know, you are being like kept away from her when she comes and stops by or tries to talk to you?
I just don't want her here because I know the way she acts, it influences everybody around me. It's not just me. It's like she sends that negativity towards me, and then I send it back out towards everybody else, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
I know Grizzy was mentioning that you might have had like someone from your high school reach out, and you've had a lot of attention
couple
from
people,
this a girl.
Yeah. You got some classmates, man. When you were going to to Catholic school, you got some classmates reaching out, which I told you about. Any messages to all the people that know you from before all this went down, that love you, that say they're here for you?
Just thank you very much for reaching out, and when I'm ready, I'll be able to reach out to the people I care about and love. And
Are you surprised by all this attention? I mean, it's been on the news across the world.
I wasn't expecting that much attention, to be honest. I didn't realize that it was happening so big, you know, just growing so much.
Are you going to take, I know police mentioned that there were some resources. Are you plans to talk to anybody that they put you in touch with?
At some point. It's just right now, I just rather do it by myself, you know, just try to learn to understand how to live and be a normal person, you know.
Have you
how to
gotten
grow and be nice.
Have you gotten an attorney?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Lawyer? No.
No, sir. Not that I'm aware of.
And then, have you talked to Quanell since you saw him at the hotel?
No.
No.
No, sir.
You guys have anything else? Anything else you want to add, Rudy?
Just spread some positivity.
Well,
Spread wildflower, not wildfire, because we need more colors and beauty in this world. We don't need any more hatred or burning things down. We need to just stop, you know, trying to disassemble everything and just take out the bolts and the screws and try to clean things, you know, instead of looking at everything so negatively. Just look at all the positivity in the world. Focus on the positivity, because every time you focus on the negativity, it just creates more negativity around you and your communities.
Okay, so how are we feeling, everyone? I mean, I gotta say that this interview, I was hoping I would leave this interview less confused about this whole case, but it's even more confusing, and it's really tough for me to really try to read Rudy when you can't see his face. I'm not asking to see his face. I understand why he doesn't want to show his face. I'm not saying that Rudy is shady for not showing his face. You know, I understand why he doesn't want to. I'm just saying, without seeing his face, it makes it harder for me to really read what's going on here. Because on one hand, you know, we had Quanell saying that there was some type of sexual things that went on between Rudy's mom and Rudy. Rudy is denying those claims. So someone's telling the truth and someone's lying. But at the same time, I mean, if you hear Rudy and how he's talking, it really kind of aligns with what Quanell said. You know, Quanell never said that there was intercourse, and Rudy says there was no intercourse, but intercourse isn't the only way to SA someone. You know, I believe that if your mom's coming in the shower with you, washing with you, and making you wash her, I believe that's SA. I believe there's a lot of other things that could happen that don't necessarily have to involve intercourse per se. But like I was telling you in the last video, Rudy's a young man, and no young man wants the world knowing that you've done sexual things with your mother. You know, so like I said, without seeing his face, it's hard to really read the situation, but I'm still questioning things. I mean, at the end of the day, if Rudy says that there was no sexual stuff, then we have to believe Rudy, right? But I've seen plenty of cases where people deny certain things, and then later on it comes out that certain things happened. Rudy himself said something very interesting. He said that, you know, he didn't have much access to the outside world. He didn't have much connections to other people. So he had nothing to compare his relationship with his mom to other people. So he was basically saying, like, I don't know if certain things my mom did or made me do. I don't know if that was normal or not, because I don't know what normally happens with other moms and sons. So that right there really left it up in the air to me, because it makes me feel like, okay, things could have happened with Rudy, and he might not even realize that certain things were inappropriate. But at the same time, I don't get the sense that he wants his mom to go to jail. And I think that he knows that if he does confirm sexual things happened, that it would make it more likely for his mom to go to jail. And he speaks highly of Nikki, the woman whose house he's at. But at the same time, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to tear anyone down. I don't know this Nikki lady. I know that she's a friend of Rudy's mom. I don't trust any friends of Rudy's mom. And if you're a friend of Rudy's mom and you've been close to this situation, you knew. Like, Nikki knew this whole time that Rudy was fake missing. Nikki's helped Rudy's mom with some of her schemes. That's something that's very important to note. I'm not trying to say that, she's guilty of anything, but we cannot shy away from the fact that Rudy, for, the last few days, he's been staying with a friend of Rudy's mom, who knew this whole time that all of these lies were going on. She was a friend of Rudy's mom's various fake Facebook friends. She had to know, at the very least, that Rudy's mom was dishonest, because she knows that Rudy's mom is doing GoFundMes. She knows that Rudy's mom is using fake pictures online. She was very close to this situation. So, I don't trust her, period. I'll just say it what it is. I don't trust Nikki or whoever this lady is, not one bit. Period. Why should I? And anyone who's a close friend of Rudy's mom has to be insane, if you ask me. So I don't know if there was some form of coaching before this conversation. And what makes me feel weird is this. For one, I didn't think that Rudy was going to be as articulate. That really kind of took me aback. But what blew my mind the most is that Rudy kind of seems to specifically know the type of things that was going on with him. You know what I mean? Like, he mentioned Stockholm Syndrome. He mentioned certain things. It's like he was able to articulate so well what he thought was going wrong the whole time. It makes me kind of wonder, for one, was somebody feeding you these talking points? And for two, it just makes me wonder, okay, so if you were able to put together so well in words what was going wrong with your situation, then I'm trying to think of a respectful way to put it. All I'll say is this. Rudy damn sure, for someone who's been going through what Rudy has been going through, he was able to explain it in a way that I don't think I've ever heard a victim explain something before. Like, he was really articulate in his explanation of what he thinks was going wrong at home with his mom. Like, even the part when he's like, I just didn't know who to compare it to, I didn't know if my mom's relationship with me and these things were appropriate because of this. It's like, it made me really step back and really just sit here kind of scratching my head. Let's just put it like that. And I don't want you all to think that I'm saying, oh, Rudy's guilty of this, Rudy's guilty of that. No, I'm just saying that it's kind of awkward. This is something that I haven't necessarily really seen that much. Someone perfectly explain what was going on here. Like, the phrases, what Stockholm Syndrome is, this and that. And it's kind of, I don't know. It was odd. That's all I'll say. But then again, there was a lot of odd things. Like, he starts talking about nanobots and stuff like that. And, he's pretty based. I think that Rudy has been sheltered from the world in a way. Rudy's been on a hell of a lot of magic mushrooms. It sure sounds like it. And he probably gets high on shrooms and chills in his room and goes down rabbit holes online, finding out about certain conspiracies, some of which are true and some of which may not be true. Who knows? But I think that's a lot of what Rudy has done. I think Rudy's been trying to understand the world through the internet instead of understanding the world through actually being out there in the real world. And when doing that, you know, you get this altered vision of what the world is. But at the same time, in doing that, you kind of can explain things that other people will be like, what? Nanobots, algorithms, colors. You know, I understand what Rudy's actually talking about. It may sound weird, and I know a lot of people are hearing this like it's just jibber jabber. I understand what he's talking about. I just don't understand what it has to do with anything. You know, when someone's sitting in front of you, so did your mom do this or do that? You know, it's just the colors and the nanobots and the algorithms. No. We're talking about this here. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. As far as the Quanell stuff goes, I think Quanell may have some explaining to do. A lot of what Rudy said here, it aligns with what Quanell said. It just feels like maybe Quanell kind of exaggerated things a little bit. But then again, I don't know if Rudy could have told Quanell something totally different. And I don't think that when Rudy talked to Quanell, I don't think that he intended for all of that information to necessarily to just come out as soon as Quanell walked out the door. You know what I mean? But now it's out the bag. But Rudy's even sitting here saying the media is manipulating things and stuff like that. So it's just he has a pretty good understanding of how things work and what's going on. And I guess that would lead a lot of people to question, okay, so if you knew like about Stockholm Syndrome and you knew this and you could explain so well, you know, what you've been going through and what you think, you know, you've suffered from, then why not just leave? Because Rudy definitely had way more freedom than I think a lot of us thought. But Rudy definitely mentioned multiple times that nothing sexual happened. And, you know, he was pretty adamant about making that clear. And part of me wonders, was he coached to do that? Part of me wonders, is he still just under that mental control of his mother and he doesn't want her to get in trouble, so he doesn't want to mention that? Is he embarrassed to mention it? Or is it just not true? If nothing sexual happened, then nothing sexual happened. You know what I mean? And I think that's a good thing, right? But for someone who may have gone through what we believed Rudy had gone through, I don't think we could expect someone to just open up in a matter of a few days. This is over 20 years of Rudy having, you know, his mother brainwash him, for lack of better words. We can't expect him to break from those chains in a matter of days. We can't expect him to fully open up. And at the end of the day, we don't even know if Rudy necessarily understands some of the things that happened to him. I find it odd that Rudy was able to articulate and remember all of these details, right? A really well-spoken kid. But then when it came to, so yeah, my mom would make me lay in bed with her, but I don't really remember why. You remember everything else. You even know the names of what you're suffering from. It's Stockholm Syndrome, that's what I'm going through. You know, this, that. He's talking about everything, but when it came to him laying in bed with his mom and how his mom would make him come into her bed, I don't remember. Conveniently, he didn't remember. So I want you all to just understand, because I know how the internet works. And I've already seen it happening. People are turning on Rudy. Point blank period. I'm watching it happen in real time. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that Rudy is necessarily in on all of this in the scammer. I don't even think that necessarily makes sense. But I don't put nothing past anybody. But I think there are certain little things within this interview. That's why I really wish I could see his face. There are certain things that I really have to question. And I do question why he could talk up a storm, talk about nanobots and colors and all of that good stuff. But when it came down to the questions about him getting in his mom's bed, I don't really remember much about that. I don't remember why I had to lay with my mom. But as far as the play the husband and the man of the house, I was wondering the whole time, is that just, the talk that your mom gives you? You got to be the man of the house now. Or was it like, oh, you got to pretend to be my husband and sleep with me and do weird stuff? Rudy makes it seem like it's just, oh, you had to be the man of the house. Rudy also seems to be pretty pissed off that his mom's been taking his money. That he has to work and then he gets 60 effing dollars, like he said. So I think that a lot of it, from what Rudy sounded like, it just feels like a young man whose mom didn't really allow him to spread his wings, and he's ready to spread his wings. You know what I mean? He's definitely upset about that paycheck, and I understand why. But when you have someone in an interview like this, and he's talking about things like that, as opposed to what we thought may have happened to him, it just makes you wonder, what was really going on? What was really the dynamic? But right now, we can only go by Rudy's word. At the same time, like I told you, I think it's too soon to really understand what's happening here. And I'm not going to be convinced that Rudy's going to be comfortable to fully speak about what happened while he's in a house with a lady who has been there this time. One of the people that knew that Rudy wasn't missing. One of the people that helped Janie and her little schemes. You know what I mean? Like, this woman helped Janie and her schemes, and now I'm supposed to just think that she's here for Rudy and has Rudy's best interest in mind. And conveniently, Rudy goes on this interview and specifically makes sure everyone knows nothing sexual happened, because that would probably be what would get his mom locked up. So, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. There's definitely other questions I have, but you have to understand. When you provide your opinions, it's one thing. But when you provide your opinions to a few people, it's one thing. But when I get on a platform and say things in front of thousands of people, you have to be mindful of what you say and respectful. But just know that I have questions, okay? I have questions. Don't think that I don't. But I'm going to play my cards right, and I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait a little while. We're going to see how things play out here, because something tells me there's still a little mystery here. There's still something left here. A lot of things aren't adding up. Now, did Quanell lie, or did this happen, or did that happen? I think that if we just sit back and wait a few days, more things will come out. But for right now, let me know your thoughts down below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll be talking to you all in the next video.